Hi everyone, in this module we're going to be going over ride height tight tolerance mode. This needs to be done when a vehicle comes into the shop and needs to be set into alignment mode. We're going to be doing this using our snap-on Ethos Edge. To set a vehicle into ride height tight tolerance mode, we must select Scanner, select Land Rover, and the unit tells us that we need to have the correct voltage to perform any diagnostic functions. So if you're running down on voltage, you can actually connect a battery charger to the unit to keep the voltage up during your diagnostic session. We continue, and from 2007 to newer vehicles, you can actually auto ID the vehicle. We select auto ID, and the Ethos Edge identifies the vehicle right down to the VIN number. We select the vehicle that we're looking at, we agree with the machine, it's okay, and the first function we come up to on your main menu, on your scanner menu, is code scan. Okay, to select ride height, we need to scroll down the screen. The last function on the screen is always the wheel alignment section in our Ethos Edge. So as you come down, you'll come to wheel alignment, ride height, tight tolerance setup. And this is what we'll select to put this vehicle into alignment mode. It tells us the ECU needs to be correctly identified. We press continue, we put the key on, and it comes up to our sub-menu, which is suspension geometry setup, suspension tight tolerance control, and stop communication. We must select suspension geometry setup, and it tells us on the screen this procedure is to be performed only if wheel alignment is to be carried out, and we agree, and it comes up to a menu: geometry setup information, tight tolerance mode, normal tolerance mode, and exit geometry setup. To put the vehicle into tight tolerance mode, we must select tight tolerance, and it tells us to put the ignition on, and in these vehicles, position 2 in the push button, continue, and it tells us that leveling is in progress. We continue, set the ignition to off, continue. You have to cycle the key to get the unit to work. Set the ignition to on, start the engine, continue, and now you can see that the air suspension is not in customer mode. We are asked to continue, and operation is successful. So continue. Tight tolerance mode has now been set, and you can now exit this mode by selecting normal mode. This must only be performed after we do the alignment and before we do our road test. After performing the wheel alignment and before we conduct our road test, the vehicle must be set back into normal mode, and we enter this selection by going back into ride height. We identify the ECU, and we go to suspension geometry setup. It tells us it needs to be performed when there's an alignment done. Continue, and at the third selection is normal tolerance mode. This must be done before you do your road test and before it's handed over to the client. We select normal road mode, set the ignition to position 2 on, it is on, continue, and it tells us that the operation mode is in manufacturing mode and it will level the air suspension. Continue, set the ignition to off, continue, and it tells us the application returns the ride level control back to normal operating conditions. We agree, Put the ignition back on. Continue. Operation is successful. It is very important to realize that when we put it into ride height, it will set a diagnostic trouble code that tells us that it is in not customer mode. So operation is successful. We continue. Set the ignition off. Continue. Set the ignition on. We're going to cycle it to clear DTCs. It tells us the diagnostic trouble codes have been set. Refer to the diagnostic trouble code monitor. Continue. The next procedure will carry out a complete vehicle diagnostic trouble code. We have to perform this so there's no DTCs when the customer gets his vehicle. We say yes, and it's completed. Set the ignition off. On again. Control module procedure completed successfully. And we're done.